Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of That's a Wrap. My name is Anthony Gentry, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. There is a lot to talk about today. I I was a little worried that I didn't have a whole lot to talk about, but I just spent the last 30 minutes just compiling everything, and yeah, there's a lot of trailers. I got two movies to talk about. They're smaller movies, so it might not take as much time as one of the bigger movies that come out. But I'm very excited nonetheless. So let's talk about some trailers that have come out. Um, some of these, two of them specifically, came out like a day after I finished recording my last episode, so that's fun. But yeah, and also, if you're new here, welcome. This is That's a Wrap. This is a movie review podcast. So every week I come in, I talk about the newest movie I watched. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube and you can watch the video, thank you too. So yeah, let's get right into it. First trailer I want to talk about is from Studio Ghibli. It is Hayao Miyazaki's maybe last film. He said this might be my last, but I'm pretty sure he said that about a lot of them. So we'll see. That guy just really loves making movies, and he makes some really good movies. And this one is called The Boy and the Heron. It's already come out, I believe, in Japan and maybe some other markets, and I think it's gotten some good buzz. I've been trying to stay away from this movie as much as I can so I can go in blind. But the trailer came out, and I couldn't help myself. I watched it, and man, Studio Ghibli, like their animation is just so good. And I haven't seen a lot of Japanese animation, especially like a lot of anime. I haven't seen a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, but what I've have seen, I've liked, and the animation specifically is so vivid, so imaginative and colorful. It just jumps out at you at the screen. It captures you into whatever world they're creating. And it looks like they're doing the same thing here with this. Um so it looks like this boy who I didn't catch his name, but his mother is missing somewhere and he has to go find her. And he befriends a heron, boy in the heron, voiced by Robert Pattinson, who does not sound like him whatsoever. He sounds super creepy with like this raspy voice. It sounds awesome. But anyway, they go together. He acts like a guide into this new world, kind of like Spirited Away. It reminded me of that. Um, and just to in hopes to find his mother, I'm guessing. But yeah, the visuals in this trailer, I just can't get over. It looked great. It looked wonderful. Um yeah, I also really like the dark tinge to it. The first note I wrote down was this looks like a movie for kids that kids will be able to watch that will also scar kids, like a lot of like old 80s children's movies like Neverending Story, Labyrinth, things like that. And good. Because I had a lot of those movies growing up, and those were so good, and they scarred me, but in a good way. And it's like, man, going back to this, it's like I'm very excited to see where this ends up. That comes out December 8th here in the U.S. If you're listening elsewhere, it might already be out. I don't know. So, have you seen it, or have you seen the trailer? Let me know in the comments on YouTube if you're watching there. Yeah. So the next trailer I want to talk about, I'm kind of going in order of release date. That's funny. Next trailer is from Marvel. Um, not the last time we're going to talk about Marvel. Wait till next week. But this trailer is for Echo. It is a new Disney Plus and Hulu, I guess, TV show about Echo from the Hawkeye show where she was introduced. And I was not expecting the level of violence in this trailer. For those of you who don't know, Echo, who her character's name is also Maya. She plays this, or she is this deaf person who's also kind of a bad guy, but it's not because of her. It's not her fault, kind of. So she's going to probably be a vigilante of sorts, and she has this interesting relationship with the Kingpin. And the Kingpin is in a lot of this trailer. He's featured very prominently. He does the only voiceover in this trailer, and that voiceover is very good. It's a very good line and line delivery, all that. The action in the trailer, it looked very engaging. It looked very cool. It looked gritty. It reminded me a lot of the Daredevil TV show, which I loved. And yeah, it was very violent. This is going to be a TVMA project, which is going to be the first like R-rated project in the MCU. So that is very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to how they deal with that inside the greater scope of the MCU. However, if you've listened to any other episode where I've talked about Marvel, you'll know I'm falling off the train. I'm not having a good time with Marvel right now. I can't trust them. We have trust issues in our relationship right now. And yeah, so I'm still very hesitant about this show. They're releasing the episodes all at once, and there's 5 episodes, so they cut down an episode from 6, which even then 6 is way too short. Expand it, please. So, and who knows, maybe the 5 was there because they decide we can tell this story in 5 episodes. We don't need a fill-up episode, which I say, good. That's a good thing. But with it being Marvel and where Marvel is right now, I can't be over the moon excited for this. Additionally, because this is an Echo TV show and it featured Kingpin so prominently that we barely got to see much of anything of Echo. The main thing that we got was Echo as a child, which was interesting. I can't really say it was compelling because we didn't get a lot of that even. And Echo is a deaf character, and we got maybe one instance or maybe 2 of her being deaf and how that applies to her and her just living her life. We didn't get, or at least I don't think we got any of how that involves the action scenes or where the story is going to go. And we didn't even get a lot of the story. So yeah, it looks cool. It looks interesting for what they showed us, but I just wanted more. What's the story? Who is Echo? And so yeah, because of that, I can't say I'm excited. It looks like they're still leaning on their laurels of, hey, you like Kingpin, here's Kingpin, and then they forget about everything else. I hope I'm wrong. We'll find out when it comes out January 10th. But yeah, until then, I can't really say I'm that excited. So, next trailer talk about. This came out, I think, just 3 hours ago. It's not been very long. And I was hyped when it came out. That's Mean Girls. This is the musical adaptation of the musical adaptation of the film of the book. Very confusing, but basically, the movie that came out 10 years ago, it got a musical on Broadway, and they're bringing that musical into film now. And yeah, I like I said, I was very excited going into this because I had not seen the musical. I have not listened to the songs in the musical because whenever I do watch a new musical, I like going in blind, not listening to any of the music because I feel like that can spoil either the story or just the experience of experiencing it for the first time. So I try to go in blind. And so going into this blind, one of the interesting parts about this musical trailer, there was no music. Like I said about leaning on laurels, it looks like this movie is going to do that. It felt like a big nostalgia play, and I do understand it's a remake and it's a musical adaptation too. And that musical was the same story but with added songs. And so I don't know what I was expecting, but I wanted something different. I wanted a new twist on it, and even in the trailer they say Tina Fey brings you a new twist. But it feels like they're just doing Mean Girls again, beat for beat. And when a remake does that, it's not interesting. And remakes can happen. Like I'm fine with a remake. Some of the greatest films are remakes. But when you do it and it's just the exact same thing again, what's the point? And I know there's going to be songs and music, singing and dancing and things like that, but I didn't get any of that in this trailer. You see a few glimpses at some dancing, but that's it. It looks like it's just updated with TikTok integration, which at least that's something new. But even Tina Fey is still in this and just playing the same character. So I don't know. I love Mean Girls, the original. It's such a fantastic movie. So to see this film just try to replicate it and lean on the nostalgia of the first movie, it just feels lazy. I want to see something new, like a good twist on it. And yeah, I hope I'm wrong. This comes out January 12th, and January is kind of known for not having the best movies come out. So that's not a great sign to me either, but we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, that, yeah. The cast is good. I can say that. The teachers, John Hamm, even some of the Mean Girls themselves. One of them was in Love, Victor, which was a show that I thought was really good. I don't remember her name, but yeah, I like her. She's a good actor. Yeah, cast looks good, but aside from that, I don't know. I just realized the main girl, Katie, is from the new Spider-Man Marvel movies, so that's cool too. Thumbs up for that, I guess. Cool cast. Yeah. Did you watch it? What do you think of it? Let me know. All right. Final trailer. And ooh, it's getting a little spooky in here. I know it's after Halloween, but I think there might be a ghost in the studio. You know who I need to call? The Ghostbusters. The new Ghostbusters Frozen Empire trailer came out. And yeah, if you want to know my thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife, you can check out my review of it. It came out, 2 years ago at this point. I was not a huge fan of Ghostbusters Afterlife. Just like the new Mean Girls trailer, I thought it relied too much on nostalgia to do something new with it. And it was just largely to its detriment. So with this, I was going in with not a whole lot of expectations, even though the original two Ghostbusters films are some of my favorite movies. Even the second one, I love it. I even like the 2016 movie, Sue Me, but I thought it was good. But yeah, so going into this, I was like, all right, new Ghostbusters, let's see what it is. And I was pleasantly surprised by it. I thought it was a good trailer. So it looks like in this we're back in New York, which is very exciting. The cast from Afterlife is back, which I really like. I'm sure it was confirmed earlier, but I didn't know about that. So I was going in just thinking, please be the same cast, because as much as I like people discovering everything again, I just wanted to get going and not have to see people be like, there's ghosts in this world? What? So yeah, I'm very happy about that. And the new threat about a frozen New York, this ghost who has, I guess, ice powers and other powers too, where Dan Aykroyd, who all the original Ghostbusters, except from Harold Ramis, of course, are back, and he talks about this guy kind of uses fear as a weapon that, like, he will scare you to death. It reminds me a little bit of Pennywise, but it looks like ice is his main power, which is cool. It's interesting. One of the things that I do hope this movie leans into is the mystery aspect of the Ghostbusters movies, because yes, they're all comedies. They're here mainly to make you laugh. It's the first one was like an SNL type movie, but it was also a mystery of these people coming together they find out that there's this threat, but they're not entirely sure what the threat is, what it wants, how much harm it can do. And so you go through the movie just discovering what it is and what the threat is and how we can defeat it. And so there was this mystery aspect to it. And with this, it felt like Dan Aykroyd just explaining away, oh yeah, this is the villain, we need to stop him. Instead of having that mystery aspect to it of why is New York frozen in July? We need to find out what's going on. Oh, it's a ghost. What is the ghost? Maybe it's this. Maybe he's in a painting, something like that. I hope it's more that and not just, all right, let's start the movie. This is the bad guy. Try and stop him. And it's like a trial and error thing because that works for other movies, but for Ghostbusters, I love that mystery aspect to it. One of the other things that I really like about this trailer is it looks like it's also leaning into the horror of Ghostbusters, because that first movie, as funny as it is, as mysterious as it is also kind of scary. I talked about movies that scarred me as a kid, and this is one of them. That beginning scene in the library with the library ghost that scared me so much, and yet I kept watching because I was so enamored by this world and like the practical effects of it all and everything. So with this and like leaning into that horror aspect of no, there is a ghost here and it is terrifying. That looks really cool. You had that like eye freezing, you had the ice spikes coming up and people running in terror. It felt I don't want to say like terrifying, but it felt scary. It felt suspenseful, which I like. I want more of that. That looks really cool. And it's not leaning on nostalgia. At least the trailer isn't. It's not saying, hey, remember the Ecto 1? Remember this? Remember Slimer? They're not doing any of that. So that looks great. I'm really excited to see this now. It comes out March 29th. Gil Keenan is directing it, who, if you don't know, did Monster House, another movie that scarred me as a kid that I loved still. So this is shaping up to be a movie just right up my alley. I'm really happy with it. I'm very excited for it. So yeah, did you watch the Ghostbusters trailer? What did you think of it? All right, let's move on to the main two topics of the show today. First movie is The Holdovers. This is a film I watched 2 weeks ago, so prior to last week's episode, but I wanted to save it. Because these two movies I'm going to talk about, Holdovers and Priscilla, are kind of like Oscars type movies, and I didn't want to talk about Holdovers in Five Nights at Freddy's. That felt like a weird mix. So, yeah, this movie is about a teacher who everybody hates. He works at this prep school. He's kind of very strict, very traditional in his way of teaching, set in 1970. And during the winter holiday, he did something that really made the principal mad. And to punish him, he's saying, all right, you gotta stay over winter break and you gotta watch all the kids who aren't going home. And so that's like a punishment. And so Paul Giamatti has to watch initially this group of kids, that's kind of this little like ragtag ensemble, and he's joined by the lunch lady who has just recently lost her child, who also went to that prep school, went to war, died almost immediately. He was very young. I think they said he was 20 maybe. Maybe he was 18. I'm not entirely sure on the age. But yeah, and then eventually it just becomes one person who's held over, one student who is also has some backstory of his own that gets revealed more as the film goes on. And I just want to say, this is such a wonderful movie. It's just first off just such good vibes. The director of it, I believe it's Alexander Payne, who did Sideways. He does such a great job of getting you in that like Christmassy mood in the 70s, and the aesthetic of everything is so good. It's so just nice and cozy. And even though it's set during winter, it feels warm. Like you can just wrap yourself into a blanket and just watch this movie and enjoy it. Um, and even though I'm saying like it's kind of like warm and fuzzy and cozy, it's also kind of dark. Um, I don't want to say too much about this movie, but one of the big things about it is that it's about our past and the ghosts that we carry with us. And in a way, this movie is kind of like a ghost movie. It's about three people who have unfinished business in some way and their loss, whether it's a literal loss or a metaphorical loss, and how they are dealing with it and how they are moving on from that, or how maybe they aren't moving on and they need to move on. And they deal with that in three different ways with these three characters, and they all hit so well. Um, Paul Giamatti, who is the main character in this, he he I don't want to say too much, but he's a teacher here. He is a hard ass, and he's that way for a reason. He doesn't really want to be there, but he feels like he's obligated to in a way, and he feels like he doesn't have any other choice. Divine, or the lunch lady, who is played by Divine Joy Randolph, she feels stuck because she is still grieving her son, and the young kid who I just gotta look up this movie because I needed their names. So, Paul Giamatti plays Paul, so that's easy. Divine Joy Randolph plays Mary, and Dominic Sessa, who plays the young student, is named Angus. And Angus is mourning the divorce of his parents, and his mom has already moved on, and he doesn't like that. So, yeah, so that's the basic gist of this, and they are all just holding on to the past and things that they've lost. And this movie does such a good job, not only like showing their pain and their grief, but just peeling back the layers to where at first you judge all of these characters by their exterior. You judge a book by its cover, basically. You're seeing them as they present themselves, and some of them are likable, some of them are not. But then as the movie goes on, it's like an onion. It peels back the layers. It's like an ogre who's an onion. It just peels back all the layers and complexities of these characters in a way that feels real, relatable, and just so satisfying and heartbreaking in a way. Especially Divine Joy Randolph, who is just marvelous in this movie. I've only seen her in a few things, most notably for me, Only Murders in the Building, which is a much larger comedic role for her. And in this, she's still funny because it's still a comedy in a way, but the way she portrays Mary's grief in this and how she is trying to move on but still stuck is so heart wrenching, and she plays it in such a believable way that you just feel for her anytime she's on screen, and you just want to like give her a hug. You want to be her best friend because she is so funny and so heartwarming, and the way she plays that character, she deserves an Oscar for it. Like honestly, she is so great in this film. Um, and the other two, Paul Giamatti and Dominic Sessa, they're great in this. Paul Giamatti is like he's great in everything. I usually see him in more supporting roles, so it was very nice to see him in a role that is more of a lead driven film that's more commanding of him, and he brings it, man. He brings it. He goes from this hard outer shell man who doesn't let anyone get close to him to over the course of this film and this winter break becoming close to these two people who at one point he would have rather died than be around them, and now he considers them family. And that's how the other two feel about each other too. It's such a good film, not only for the holidays, but also just for people. Like it really does a great job just portraying these people. One of my only downsides for it, because I am really raving about it, but there's about 20 minutes in this film that could just be cut out, maybe even 30 minutes that could be cut out, and the movie would be the same, if not better. This movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes, and the part I'm talking about is when I said at first it's a ragtag group of students and then it becomes just one. You could have started with just the one, because the ragtag students, they have them there so you can show how like strict Paul's character is and how much he kind of sucks in his traditional ways. But they already achieved that earlier in the film, and they just wanted to show that more so that once he does have his character turn, it's more satisfying for the audience, which I understand. But you get to know these characters, and even Angus, the main student, has some interactions with some of them that are nice, and they start off cold and then become a little warm towards each other. And you're like, all right, this is the film. It's kind of like a Freaks and Geeks kind of thing, and then they immediately disregard it, and then they say, all right, this is what the actual movie is. And if they had just gone rid of that, it would have been a lot tighter of a film. It would have been more concise. So yeah, I wish that they had just either gotten rid of it or shortened it at least, so we don't put so much focus on these characters that we aren't going to see for the rest of the film, because that's just disappointing. There's also a few plot threads that are just go by the wayside at the end of this film. There's one that I was really closely watching that I thought was really interesting, centering around Paul's character, and he's always drinking. He's always drinking whiskey, and they very clearly show that he's an alcoholic, but they never address it, and they don't even need to address it. But at the end, when the character has like this big win, it involves a bottle of alcohol. So then it has me thinking, well, was that a win? Like, I know you can't just change your ways immediately, but I don't know. It felt like it didn't come to a good conclusion. It felt like they were just teeing it up and then didn't do anything more with it. So yeah, I was a little disappointed by that. But other than those two things, I really enjoyed this movie. I definitely watch it again, if not just to like. You can watch this on mute and just enjoy the cinematography. It's so just nice to look at, nice to listen to, and the story itself really helps because it's great. It's a great story. So yeah, you should definitely go out and watch this. I'm sure it'll be on the Oscars ballot once those come out. But yeah, have you seen the film? Because it's been out for a little bit now, I believe. I saw an early access screening, so I'm not entirely sure. I think it has been out. I don't know. You tell me. Have you seen it? Let me know. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I don't know. Tell me. All right. Last trailer for this episode, or last movie for this episode, and that is the new A24 film, Priscilla. Priscilla. So this is a new film by Sofia Coppola, who has directed a lot of like indie character-driven films, and this is no different. For those of you who don't know, she's the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola, who is a great director, and she is also a great director. And this follows Priscilla Presley's life and her perspective in her relationship with Elvis Presley. And yeah, one of my first things about this was it is such a great companion piece to last year's Elvis biopic, because that movie showed Elvis kind of as an icon, as this historical figure who was larger than life, and this film shows him as Elvis the person and who he truly was. And that is just such a great contrast, and to see this like showman and then a peek behind the curtain. I just thought it was a very interesting comparison, and very very nuanced in a way, because Elvis Presley, I didn't know him, so I'm not going to say for sure, but most likely was not a great person. And considering that this is based on a book written by Priscilla Presley, it's probably true. I mean, I don't know. It might not be true. Who knows? They might extrapolate some things, take things out of proportion for a film, but they do not portray Elvis into a good light in this film. Um, let's just get into this. So this follows Priscilla Presley, starting when she was 14 years old, when she met Elvis, when he was, I don't know, 26, kind of at the height of his fame. So he was already the Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. And how they formed a relationship when she was just 14. And this movie is very hard to watch, especially during those young Priscilla scenes, because Sofia Coppola really drives home how young Priscilla is. And Kaylee Spaney does a really great job at playing that youthful innocence of a teen who is just starstruck by this famous singer who she loves, and how that singer sees that and takes advantage of it to get what he wants. And it's such a it's a hard watch for sure, but that relationship and the dynamics that come from that are very interesting and to watch and to just think about afterwards. Like, you think, wow, she was 14, 15, going on dates with Elvis, kissing him, and the only reason that he thought he was in the like righteous way is because he didn't have sex with her. And he thought, all right, I'm a good person because I recognize you're not 18, so we're not going to have sex. But that they were still in a relationship, and the emotional toll that that takes of being in a relationship with a rock star who's always traveling the world. There's always going to be rumors about him dating other people. Sometimes those rumors may be true, even. And how that just presses on Priscilla and her mental psyche. It's very just interesting to watch. So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Like I said, Kaylee Spaney does a great job at not only playing a young Priscilla, but playing Priscilla at every age of her life. Jacob Elordi, who plays Elvis, also does a really great job at playing the Elvis that we know, but showing us the Elvis that we don't know. And showing how mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically abusive that Elvis was to Priscilla. And just seeing it's such a sad watch too, because you see how what Elvis is doing to her, and you just want Priscilla to leave. You want her to get up and leave, but the abuse that Elvis has done to her, like, she can't leave because he just keeps manipulating her, saying he's going to do better. He's not going to cheat on her anymore. It was a mistake. It's not real. Like, lying to her, manipulating her. It really shows Elvis to be this very bad person. And so yeah, the way Sofia Coppola shows this is both explicit but also implicit, with just some of the ways like they look at each other or just act physically around each other. The body language between the two of them really tells you a lot about their emotional maturity, but also just their relationship and how they feel about each other. Um, so yeah, I really like that. I do think this film kind of gets a little repetitive at times. They repeat some of the same beats to show Elvis's nature towards Priscilla, and it is to show that, oh, he is constantly doing this to her, whether it's cheating on her or abusing her in some way. And so I understand that, but the way they do it is almost the exact same, especially whenever Elvis has to leave, and then Priscilla just basically waits around for him, eventually lives with his parents, and his parents also kind of suck, especially the dad, because she just wants to live a normal life, but because she's dating a rock star, she can't, because whatever she does will reflect on him and the family. And especially that just happening to this young girl who just wants to live her life. She just wants to have a normal life and be in a relationship, but she's not getting both. And yeah, just how that takes a toll on her. But anyway, um yeah, it gets a little repetitive because they do some of the same things again and again. But my main problem with this comes in the second half. This feels like it was a 2.5 hour film, 3 hour film that was cut down to 2 hours. It felt like Sofia Coppola had a lot to say about Priscilla and especially her mid and late life that she wasn't able to tell, because you get a lot of her early life with Elvis. But the moment that they get married, it goes through her life very quickly. You get a good amount of the middle of her relationship with Elvis, but the moment that she has Lisa Presley, they rush through it to it's I think it's the last 10 minutes, because I checked my watch when it happened, and I was stunned because there was only 10 minutes left in the film, and yet it felt like there was so much more to tell, especially with the added um variable of Lisa in the film, because this is now Elvis's child, and how is that going to change not only their relationship but his relationship with Lisa and Priscilla's relationship with Lisa, because he wasn't always there for Lisa. That they even show that in the Elvis movie that came out last year, and this film didn't really show it all that much, and I was disappointed. Because that is such an interesting part, and it felt like that is where that was going to be one of the big climaxes of the film, and it they just kind of sped through it to where, like, once it ends, it doesn't like it feels concluded, but felt like there was a lot more to tell of the in between. And so that was a little disappointing, but overall I do really enjoy this movie. If you watch it, just be prepared, because just seeing what Priscilla had to go through, whether it was through Elvis or just through having to reckon with dating a rock star and what that means for her life, it's a very interesting and compelling watch. So I would probably give this film maybe an 80 out of 100. That feels right. Holdovers, I did not rate that. I'd probably give that an 85 out of 100. So both these movies, both highly recommend. I encourage everyone to go out, see them in the theater. They deserve to be seen on the big screen. Every movie deserves to be seen on the big screen, except maybe The Munsters. But that's a review in the past. Go check out that review. But, yeah. Have you seen either of these movies? Have you watched any of the trailers? Tell me in the comments. So yeah, thank you for watching. You can follow me at That's a Wrap NCR on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Next week, I will be reviewing The Marvels, the new MCU movie that I don't know how that's gonna go. It's the shortest MCU movie, so at least I won't be in the theater for long. But we'll see. I liked Captain Marvel. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. I'll also talk about Loki season 2. I have been watching it. I just haven't talked about it on the podcast because I wanted to talk about it all at once. So yeah, next week will be a very Marvel heavy episode, which I haven't had in a while. So that's kind of exciting to talk about Marvel again, even if it might not be for the best. But we'll find out when we get to it. But until then, that's a wrap.